We are gathered here today to honor the life of national artist Salvador Bernal, dear friend, colleague, artist, designer, and mentor. Badong, as he was known to all, though slight of frame and light of gait, was a real titan of Philippine theater and design. His body of work, sets and costumes, and all that go into the staging of dramas, musicals, operas, concerts, and film, all speak of his luxuriant imagination, his boundless creativity and resourcefulness, and his sharp intellect. The Cultural Center of the Philippines was the home of Badong, starting in 1969, for many, many years thereafter. And it was indeed a privilege and honor to have had him here, where he showed us many times over a thing or two and more about theater design. It was Badong who founded our Production Design Center, where the CCP scene shop, costume, and production rooms are. Badong is credited with having designed more than 300 productions, many of them staged here at the CCP, that delighted, moved, touched, and entertained many Filipinos. He was a learned man and a generous man who shared his expertise in theater design with the younger generation. He was a true guru who inspired students to pursue the craft of production design. If not for Badong, we would not have people like Gino, Gonzales, and our very own Eric Cruz, who runs the CCP Production Design Department, and others like Mio Infante, Nick Campo, and the late Rogelio Juliano, and the late Denise Tan, among others. Badong was quiet and low-key, a man of letters. He taught English. He wrote poetry. Certainly his production designs were odes in their own right. That he chose to execute them mostly in indigenous material speaks of his authenticity as a Filipino artist, one who transformed mundane, everyday products into magical settings for theater. Poet Emilio Abad, writing in the introduction of Badong's book of poems entitled "The Fire Trees Burn All Summer" and other poems, said that the world of Salvador F. Bernal has always been a world of poetry. Mr. Abad cited many beautiful lines from Badong's poems, which he praised for their energy and grace. There is one poem I'd like to read to you, one which Mr. Abad also singled out. It's a short one, probably one he composed in his mind while enveloped in darkness of the theater, or maybe he wrote it while sitting alone at his desk later that night when all was quiet and the day was done. In it, Badong takes us backstage and into his workshop and into his creation process. Ariadne in Malachite Queen. Tomorrow, the crew sets up Ariadne, and days later, the curtains will rise like a giant swell of Aegean blue. I am still here in the shop, though, littered with flats, all ready for the brush, the marble slabs and malachite. The absent staff of painters must have joined Scott and Euripides. After all, the class is only blocks away. One poem, of course, deserves another in response, and on the evening of the day that he died, good friend Ravi Sumiko, our colleague at the Philippine Board of Books for Young People, himself a writer and publisher, wrote a short poem, and I asked his permission to read it to you today. Kay Badong, I write this now with bird-beaked pen, and your book silent beside me to dry my tears in ink. It is to remember you, this recourse of an old way of thinking, voiceless but aloud, confronting the terrible courtesy of paper, supple yielding its very face, unforgetting, unforgiving, but always retreating before the stroke and spatter of our lives, the list and calculus of our dreaming. I try to remember the pitch and cadence of your voice, how slowly you spoke, as if there was always time, if there was not always grace. And now, there is no time, just a scrape and scratch of pen to make do for the loss of such elegance, such taste. We thank Badong for the energy, yes, and the elegance he brought to the Philippine stage. Like his poetry, his designs were things of beauty, always a joy to behold. As one blogger put it, Badong was, is a radiant soul.